you enter, drink with the RAV Hosts drink, Soldier Fuel.
Let's go!
The Charlie Kirk Show starts now.
Abdul is as American as any other name in this country. It's one of the strongest American names that you can have.
And I also want to remind you guys that there are a lot of people in Dearborn who are sad today. So, I just don't want to comment on Hamani Khamenei at all. I don't think it's worth even touching that.
On the removal of a whole people, founded on the idea that we could compromise.
Abdul is as American as any other name in this country. It's one of the strongest American names that you can have.
And I also want to remind you guys that there are a lot of people in Dearborn who are sad today. So, I just don't want to comment on Hamani Khamenei at all. I don't think it's worth even touching that.
On the removal of a whole people, founded on the idea that we could compromise on whether or not people, as a function of the color of their skin, could be enslaved by other people. Founded under the idea that all people are created equal, all men, but that only meant certain men, and not women.
You championed in the legislature trans-inclusive legislation, even as public opinion has shifted. Big majorities now support bans on trans females in women's sports and medical interventions for minors. So what are you going to tell Tom Tiffany when he calls you a radical trans activist?
What's radical is that we still have a $7.25 minimum wage.
Can I be honest?
Yeah, be honest.
I was crying during Congresswoman Omar's speech, so I went up trying to get together. But I think overall I'm just very grateful.
Talk about why it's important for you to have the backing of such a polarizing figure, even though she's not from your state. Why does this matter to you to have her there, and why is she important to your race?
The Congresswoman has done a phenomenal job of showing what it looks like to lead with moral conviction and courage. I'm deeply inspired.
Campaigning with the DSA, I know he's not a DSA candidate, but the DSA label, Hassan Piker, his friends there in the DSA are so bat crazy, right, that the Democrats, your party, which should have a very good year, is going to blow it. They're going to blow it because you guys have such nutty candidates.
I am not going to be in the same party with Hassan Piker. I can tell you that right now. If he becomes a force in the Democratic Party, I'm out of here. I have no intention of ever being in the same political party with that guy. But the one thing I can tell you for certain, Hassan Piker and James Cargill are not going to be in the same political party. One of us is going to leave. It might even be me.
I believe that people can evolve. We meet Trump voters from previous elections who now would like to vote for me, who have a sign in their yard.
So who needs to evolve, the voter or you?
The governor cannot defund the police, and I won't defund the police.
So you have evolved.
Invest in the things we know prevent crime, like getting guns off of our street, making sure there is victims for justice, that there are places where our kids can go after school and thrive. We can't be tough on causes. We have to be tough on causes if we would like to be tough on crime. And as governor, I cannot defund the police, and I've reminded folks that I won't defund the police.
How are you going to keep people from taking advantage of that, that deal, basically? And is there going to be a limit on the number of items that someone can take that are discounted at that level from that essential basket?
We are looking to make sure that we target New Yorkers, whether it be at sort of a library card-esque thing.
New York is the last place you want to demonize success.
Yeah,
the reason people move to New York is they think, I want to be successful on Broadway. I want to be successful in business. I want to be successful in the arts. And no one's going to get in my way if I'm really talented and work hard. We're going to celebrate it. We're not going to put a big R on your door and say you've done something wrong because you're successful.
Should billionaires exist?
No. I don't know if you've heard, but Mayor Mamdani has decided to release a list of the 950,000 residences with addresses and names that might be eligible for his pied-à-terre tax. I came out in favor of this tax. This is the definition. He's taken a legitimate source tax revenue and he's turning it into a wanted poster. And the question I would have is, other than trying to identify and imply these people have done something wrong.
So my friends have all switched to Pure Talk because I told them they could save a bunch of money on a super reliable.
Fatherhood is under attack in America. 1 in 4 kids is growing up without a father. We've replaced fathers with bureaucrats, and the results are a disaster for our kids and our country. I'm John Papola, host of Dad Saves America and CEO of Emergent Order Foundation. I like to say Emergent Order Foundation is what it would look like if Warner Brothers and PBS had a baby that actually loved America. We're a studio on a mission to defend the family and to call men back to the responsibility, strength, and sacrifice that fatherhood demands. The family is the last line of defense against a radical agenda that wants to rewrite everything from truth and tradition to gender and God. We're raising a new generation of men, not victims, not activists, but fathers and protectors. Join the mission, support the movement. Visit dsa-rav.com today to take a stand for fatherhood and the American family.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
Here we go, all of us.
Wow, that's good.
I'm fueled up now.
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by
information coming from every angle with the will to deceive. Fear not. You found the place for truth. The voice of a generation that still has the will to believe in the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the Charlie Kirk Show. Buckle up. Here we go.
Buckle up. Here we go. It is August 4th. We're in the dog days of summer officially. And school's getting back in. But man, Murderers Row, DSA Murderers Row is coming from Michigan. We have the long-awaited for primary on the Democrat side, and it happens tonight. And we are expecting El Sayed to win that, but let the voters decide in Michigan. And it is a long time coming. Like I said, this is one of the most controversial of all the Senate primaries that are on the calendar this year. And we are going to learn a lot tonight, Blake. There is so much to look for because this would be the first Muslim senator, should he be successful in winning the state of Michigan, which he has a very good shot of winning, should he be elected.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like I think he's the favorite to win it. He certainly has all of the viral energy. He has all of the intensity focused on him. And as we were discussing the other day, if we ignore these lunatic DSA types, if we just dismiss them, they will have a way of just winning. And then what?
Yeah. Well, so Emerson College has El Sayed at 54 and Haley Stevens, the more centrist, I guess, moderate. She's quite the character herself, actually, at 39%. Mitchell Research, which was from late July, has El Sayed at 52%, Stevens at 38%. Tavern Research, also from late July, has El Sayed at 46 and Stevens at 36. So he's probably going to win tonight, and he does not claim the mantle of being a DSA, a Democrat Socialist of America, which is basically the far-left Looney Tune bin of the party. And listen, they're ascendant. I'm not trying to make light of them, but it is a Looney Tune group of people. These ideas are crazy, but he doesn't put that mantle on him. But I think that's a political ploy. That is a posturing. That is marketing. That is spin. Because guess what? He's been hanging out with Hassan Piker, SOP 5.
Stressed out?
No, it's like the weight is what kills you. Yeah. Just waiting. You know, polls don't vote, man. People vote. Right?
No, so exactly.
There's a lot of inshallah that needs to happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of inshallah that is happening. And that's with Hassan Piker, who just to remind you, said that America deserved 9/11. He wants to see capitalist blood spilled on the streets. This guy is absolutely beyond the pale. I think he incites violence against conservatives. And he's a bad dude. He's a silver spoon kid that happened to be born in America, raised in Turkey, and then comes back to America to torment us. And he is rising in political influence, political power, and he has put his stamp of approval on El Sayed. Now, the good news is it does seem that Mike Rogers on the Republican side is doing pretty well in the polling. Hopefully, the voters of Michigan will reject this craziness, this latest edition of DSA Murderers Row in that state. But the fact that we're this close is a 5-alarm fire to everybody. El Sayed could very well win Michigan. There's a lot of headwinds against Republicans going into this midterm. And we could have our first far-left, progressive, I call him a DSA, and a Muslim as senator out of the state of Michigan. This is an absolute civilizational 5-alarm fire, folks. I cannot stress this enough. And so we have to play these clips. What does he believe? What does he stand for? Let's hear his take on what America was founded upon. SOT 2.
On the removal of a whole people. Founded on the idea that we could compromise on whether or not people, as a function of the color of their skin, could be enslaved by other people. Founded under the idea that all people are created equal, all men, but that only meant certain men. And not women.
So this is a self-described proud son of Africa, Blake, coming to the state of Michigan, telling Americans about how horrible our founding was. This is the new normal, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, he might reject the label of socialist, but the reason we're so eager to append him to it is he certainly comes with what you might consider all the other ideological baggage of modern socialism, which is seeing America as fundamentally illegitimate, really wearing as a badge of pride how not historically American he is. That's what this guy represents. It is a categorically anti-American attitude to take. And, you know, if we get this guy as a senator from Michigan, and if we have Francesca Hong winning out of Wisconsin with her platform of abolishing Thanksgiving, it's going to represent like a new frontier for the Democratic Party. And the Democrats have had bad ideas for a long time. We think their policies do not work best for America. And they've definitely done destructive stuff as they did in 2020. But this will be a pivot of the Democratic Party into full Euro-leftism with total civilizational solvent, permanent open borders, permanent end to free markets, permanent end to really America itself.
Yeah, and on that open borders, I mean, he has promised to give driver's license to illegal immigrants. This is SOT 6. This is a clip unearthed from 2018.
Beyond that, I look forward to pushing forward legislation that would preempt localities from participating with ICE and using their local resources to do the same. Beyond that, we've also got to make sure that in this state, we are not discriminating by documentation status. Right now, if you're undocumented, you don't get access to a driver's license. So you're stuck. You don't get access to a lot of the basic things the state offers everybody else. And I think that's ridiculous. And so we've got to stop discriminating that way.
Bad idea upon bad idea. And here's him, and we mentioned the clip, he's pandering to Roland Martin, of all people, calling himself a proud son of Africa, SOT 7.
Step back and ask why we lost in 2024. Too often we lost young people. We lost Arab and Muslim voters. I'm an Egyptian American. I'm a proud son of Africa, and I'm also proudly Arab and Muslim American. I think we have an opportunity to bring communities together to bring back the voters that too often we lost, to win the future for our state, take back our state from Donald Trump.
Proud son of Africa coming to you folks in Michigan. One of the most, if you tour around Michigan, it is one of the most American feeling states in so many parts of that state. And it's just crazy that this is the moment we're at, folks. DSA Murders Row coming for Michigan tonight. We'll see how it plays out. I want to tell you guys about All Family Pharmacy. More Americans are starting to ask a very important question. Why is it so difficult to get access to medication you already know that you need? If your health is your responsibility, which it is, why are outside systems deciding what you can and cannot have and when you're allowed to have it? That is a big reason why we are such fans of All Family Pharmacy. They make it simple to order a wide range of medications online, from everyday maintenance medications to travel and emergency preparedness options. The process is super easy. It's secure, and it's designed for people who value convenience and peace of mind, whether you're preparing for a trip, dealing with pharmacy shortages, or simply want to be proactive for your family. All Family Pharmacy helps you and put you back in control, which is a big deal. So go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Kirk, allfamilypharmacy.com/Kirk. Use promo code Kirk10 and you save 10% off your order. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/Kirk. We'll be right back.
Life insurance is a wonderful asset, but what happens when you no longer need it or you can't afford it?
Fatherhood is under attack in America. 1 in 4 kids is growing up without a father. We've replaced fathers with bureaucrats, and the results are a disaster for our kids and our country. I'm John Papola, host of Dad Saves America and CEO of Emergent Order Foundation. I like to say Emergent Order Foundation is what it would look like if Warner Brothers and PBS had a baby that actually loved America. We're a studio on a mission to defend the family and to call men back to the responsibility, strength, and sacrifice that fatherhood demands. The family is the last line of defense against a radical agenda that wants to rewrite everything from truth and tradition to gender and God. We're raising a new generation of men, not victims, not activists, but fathers and protectors. Join the mission, support the movement. Visit dsa-rav.com today to take a stand for fatherhood and the American family.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
Here we go, all of us.
Wow, that's good.
I'm fueled up now.
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the RAV hosts drink. Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
Hey, this is SEAL Team from Missouri. I like Real America's Voice because it's real news for real people, and it's real good.
Hello, this is Kurt. Why do I love RAV? You ever talk to the hosts? You can do that on RAV. And the RAV family, they'll talk back to you too. Let you know what's going on. Take care.
Hi, I'm Chris from Illinois. We like to watch Real America's Voice in the War Room with Stephen K. Bannon for all the great guests. Everyone from Kerry Lake, the great Frank Gaffney, Trump coming before retribution.
Welcome back. We got to turn our eyes to New York. Well, there's different. We could go to Utah or New York, Blake. Utah or New York. I'll let you be the.
We're gonna go back to the Democrats in the second half. I think we've got to take our aim at Utah right now. They have their lawmakers are letting us down again, and we got to say it. Senator Curtis, he's not doing what Republicans elected him to do.
No, he's not. I don't know what it is about deep red states, but it is almost impossible to get two good conservatives in the Senate from deep red states. So Senator John Curtis said, it's so frustrating. Senator John Curtis says, Utah employers tell me time and time again how difficult it's become to find enough workers to meet growing demands. Our bill, so he's proposing a new bill, allows states to sponsor visas tailored to their unique workforce needs while ensuring rigorous federal vetting and accountability. This tweet of his has 242 likes compared to 3.6 thousand comments. It is going viral for all the wrong reasons. That is a ratio for the record books. Now, here is my response to Senator Curtis, and then Blake, I want yours. They have been telling us, the American people, this same lie for decades. The same lie. We need more and more cheap foreign labor to meet the demands of business. This is an absolutely tried and tested giant lie that has resulted in a foreign-born population in our country of north of 15%, which is historic on many fronts. America has absorbed the largest movement of human beings that any country in the history of the world has absorbed since the 1960s, right? When we had the Hart-Celler Act, 1965. We have absorbed that much and done better with it than any other country on the planet because of our greatness. But you can only do this for so long. The truth is, there will never be enough cheap foreign labor to satisfy the business community. They will always want more. It is an insatiable appetite. It is an addiction that we must break. And I want to take your attention to the 1950s. I know that conservatives get a lot of gruff for pointing to the 1950s, but it was a time of extreme and robust growth. Yes, it was post-war, and we had some structural advantages, but the GDP grew at an average of 4.2%. We would kill for those numbers now. It reached 7 to 8% on 4 different occasions during the 1950s. And during those years, we only allowed 250,000 people to come into the country. 250 per year, 250,000 per year. Now we allow 1.2 million a year. Like I said, the foreign-born population is now north of 15%. But during the 1950s, Blake, did you know that the foreign-born population went from, in 1950, 6.9% of the population to 5.4% by 1960? Invasion levels of immigration for cheap labor is not the key to growth, and the 1950s prove it. But it is the key to ruining everything else in your country and culture. That is my take. Blake, what is yours?
I mean, it's just, first of all, it's so frustrating because it's like these guys persistently decide to just not get the point. They don't get why Donald Trump was able to win the nomination in 2016, why he won that election, why he was able to come back and win in 24. They don't get what issues fire up the base. They don't get what they seem incredibly pig-headed in refusing to see what the long-term consequences of this are. Okay, you say business owners want lower wages, and then these same people will turn around and scream, save us, when you have El Said running in Michigan, when you have these DSA candidates taking over New York City, taking over Wisconsin, taking over California. All of this is very directly related to us having lots and lots of immigration from countries where socialism is the norm, where third world economics is the norm, and voting for it is the norm. And so the long-term effects of this are you dilute America's ability to be competitive. The long-term effect of this is you dilute what made America so special, what made America a desirable place for people to come to in the first place. And then they just deliver these lectures. Oh, we have a shortage of workers, and it's not even really true. And on top of that, like, use your brain. What's everyone freaking out about right now? Everyone's freaking out about artificial intelligence. What could that mean? Well, it might mean a lot of white-collar jobs get automated away. Talk to a young computer science grad. The job market for them is very difficult right now. How about manual labor jobs? Go look at a video from China where they're making humanoid robots. So what these guys are proposing to do is bringing in people from foreign countries who will have the right that any kids they have will have birthright citizenship. Thanks to our glorious Supreme Court, those birthright citizens can then sponsor their entire extended family to get permanent residency here and then ultimately citizenship as well. They want to import all of those people when their jobs might be getting automated away. This was the excuse we heard in the first Trump term. Who's going to drive the Ubers if we don't import 1 million immigrants? Well, now we're on the brink of self-driving cars, and are all of those Uber drivers going to go back to their home countries? No, a bunch of them are citizens at this point. And I'm even reading Deseret News' thing, buried in Curtis's bill, even though he says it brings accountability and has safeguards, it has a pathway to legal residency for visa holders who are illegal immigrants physically present in the U.S. since December 31st, 2016. They would need to undergo a background check and pay a penalty of, wait for it, Andrew, $1,000. Wow. All right. And so we're going to get a backdoor amnesty thrown in, just like they have in Spain, just like they have everywhere else. How do you prove someone's been here since 2016? I can't imagine that will be strictly enforced. You only need one judge to say that actually, you're not allowed to enforce that in any way. This is just rank insanity that we've seen happen over and over and over again. And it's like you said, it's so hard to just get two Republican senators who actually vote for what the base wants, which is also good for the party's long-term interest, good for America's long-term interest, just good for the country. I just can't get over how dumb this is.
Well, and Blake, we can't forget the Dignidad Act that was sponsored by roughly 40 different politicians. The chief sponsor would be Marie Salazar from Florida. She's the author and previously introduced a different version in 2023. And it has a bunch of Democrats sponsoring it as well. And it's basically asylum reform, and it gives legal status to dreamers. And then that version, the Dignity Program, for eligible long-term undocumented individuals present before roughly late 2020. So again, how are you going to prove somebody was here in 2020 or before? These are experts at making up fake papers, folks. And I can guarantee you there are a lot of lawyers and NGOs standing by to help them make their case. So once again, we have conservatives, so-called conservatives, betraying the base, going against everything that put Donald Trump in office. And it is so shameful that it deserves an entire 8 minutes calling it out for what it is. A betrayal of base voters, of what we voted for, and we are sick of it. So, Senator Curtis, I do not like your future political prospects. Let's leave it at that. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Ben Cozy. Isn't traveling a pain in the neck? You're cramped, uncomfortable, and forget about it.
Fatherhood is under attack in America. 1 in 4 kids is growing up without a father. We've replaced fathers with bureaucrats, and the results are a disaster for our kids and our country. I'm John Popola, host of Dad Saves America and CEO of Emergent Order Foundation. I like to say Emergent Order Foundation is what it would look like if Warner Brothers and PBS had a baby that actually loved America. We're a studio on a mission to defend the family and to call men back to the responsibility, strength, and sacrifice that fatherhood demands. The family is the last line of defense against a radical agenda that wants to rewrite everything from truth and tradition to gender and God. We're raising a new generation of men, not victims, not activists, but fathers and protectors. Join the mission, support the movement. Visit dsa-rav.com today to take a stand for fatherhood and the American family.
When it's breaking,
we're moving.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. News doesn't sleep. At Real America's Voice, we don't get to crash or lose focus. That's why we drink Soldier Fuel to stay ahead of the chaos, because we do this for you.
So good.
Soldier Fuel has no sugar, so no crash.
Now that's a game changer.
Here we go, all of us.
Wow, that's good.
I'm fueled up now.
Used by the U.S. military every day. Now available to you.
This is huge.
Built by Patriots for Patriots.
Now it's time for you to do the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Order Soldier Fuel, film yourself cracking one open, and taking the Soldier Fuel Challenge. Upload your video at soldierfuel.com/challenge, and you'll be entered to win a free shipment of Soldier Fuel.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your video could also be featured on air. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to soldierfuel.com/challenge to enter. Drink with the RAV hosts drink. Soldier Fuel.
Let's go.
Hey, this is SEAL Team from Missouri. I like Real America's Voice because it's real news for real people, and it's real good.
Hello, this is Kurt. Why do I love Rav? You ever talk to the hosts? You can do that on Rav. And the Rav family, they'll talk back to you too. Let you know what's going on. Take care.
I'm Chris from Illinois. We like to watch Real America's Voice in the War Room with Stephen K. Bannon for all the great guests. Everyone from Kerry Lake, the great Frank Gaffney, Trump coming before retribution.
Back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. Todd Blanche is a major step closer to becoming the country's next attorney general after clearing the Senate Judiciary Committee with a 12-10 party line vote. Until Monday, Blanche's confirmation was uncertain as Republican Senators Tom Tillis and John Cornyn both wanted assurances about President Trump's $1.8 billion weaponization fund. Blanche agreed to do away with the fund, which would have provided funding to Trump allies who have been targeted by government prosecution.
My vote to advance Mr. Blanche's nomination goes beyond this document. We need a stabilizing force at the Department of Justice, and Mr. Blanche deserves the opportunity to provide that as opposed to continuing to serve in an acting capacity and as the Deputy Attorney General. The Department of Justice does not need a temporary, unconfirmed nominee as our nation's top law enforcement officer. President Trump needs someone in this role as well with a strong legal mind, but who also is close enough to him to give him confidential legal advice to tell him hard truths.
Blanche's nomination now heads to the full Senate, where a confirmation vote is expected in the coming days. U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, is on the hot seat this morning after President Trump publicly blasted her Monday, saying that she folded like an umbrella when she dropped charges against a former Olympian who was accused of vandalizing the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. This morning, questions are being asked after this video of Pirro leaving the White House on Monday surfaced.
The judge was extremely unfriendly to Jeanine, and frankly, I think she choked because the judge was really vicious. Instead of going after the people that did it, the judge went after her and went after her department. And I guess she choked. I don't know what the hell happened.
Are you reconsidering her role?
I don't know what. You don't. You're fake news. Don't ever talk again.
At this point, Pirro remains employed. That's a quick check of your headlines.
100% American made. And darn proud of it. The Charlie Kirk Show.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Got to tell you about Patriot Mobile. Our good friends over at Patriot Mobile. Love me some Glenn and Jenny's story out of Texas. They're doing great work. So, of course, you get access to all three major carriers. So you get the same service you've become accustomed to. But you get 100% U.S.-based customer support. We're talking about giving Americans jobs. This is one way to do it. Patriot Mobile gives you premium priority nationwide service. They give you unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, and 100% U.S.-based customer support, which I said. Switching is easy. Keep your number, keep your phone, activate in just minutes. You can even upgrade. But Patriot Mobile is so much more than just a wireless provider, okay? This is an activist organization that are in the front lines with us, standing shoulder to shoulder on the values that you care most about. It's freedom, liberty, supporting first responders, everything, Second Amendment, First Amendment. These guys are amazing, and they're fighting like crazy in Texas, I will tell you, to keep that state red, to keep it conservative, and to stop the Islamification of that state. But they work all across the country. They donate millions every year to organizations that are fighting for your freedoms. So go to patriotmobile.com/Charlie, patriotmobile.com/Charlie, or call 972-PATRIOT and use the promo code Charlie for a free month of service. That's patriotmobile.com/Charlie, or call 972-PATRIOT today and use that promo code Charlie because it's just so important. All right, we're going to turn our attention to Northwest Wisconsin, one of the most important races and primaries out there. And this is a Turning Point Action endorsed Michael Alfonso. He's just 26 years old. He had a daughter 6 weeks ago, and he's running to backfill Tom Tiffany's seat, who's running for governor in that state. pretty cool to have a Freedom Caucus aligned young 26-year-old getting into the fray. So without further ado, let's welcome Michael Alfonso to the show. Good to have you, Michael, and good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
So tell us about your race, the dynamics of it, what you're up against with this primary. It's a primary is just about a week away, if I'm not mistaken. Who are you up against, and what differentiates the two of you?
Yeah, so right now it's a open seat race for a pretty relatively safe Republican seat. So there's about 8 separate people in this primary. But I think what really separates me is, and we're seeing this in Wisconsin, this rise of socialism. And frankly, I don't even like calling it socialism because it's communism. That's what socialism becomes. My grandparents came to this country from Cuba. I know all about this socialism lie. But the leading candidate for governor here in Wisconsin is a socialist, a communist. And I think when we look at the polling, just where is this movement coming from? It's coming from young people. That's why I think it's so important to have young voices on the right who are working on winning that next generation. And that's what I think I do best.
I think that's really well said. And you brought it up, this Francesca Hong character. This was a clip that I saw last night for the first time. And, you're a son of Cuban immigrants, so this probably is going to be a perfect clip for you to respond to. Side 8.
What needs to be in curriculum for school boards, going back to making sure that talking about racial identity and the role of race is ubiquitous in classrooms.
But racial politics, racial grievances, and talking about race, she wants to make that ubiquitous in classrooms. What good does this do for young Americans, Alfonso?
A whole lot of nothing. It wasn't long that I was on these college campuses. I saw them trying to indoctrinate every single student that comes their way, but now they're trying to get it into the middle schools, the high schools, the grade schools. What they're doing is they're going after our kids, and that's what makes this movement so dangerous. I just had a daughter. We're talking very seriously about homeschooling because we can't trust the schools. We're paying every single year into a program that all it does is create new little leftists who hate the country.
I totally agree. Blake, your reaction?
I just keep thinking how nice it is that we have another young guy running for Congress. I don't imagine you were seeing our last segment, but we were just blowing up at Utah's Republican senator because he's pushing out this bill for amnesty for so many millions of illegal workers and bringing in new ones. And we just have this conversation. We get so many emails that say, what can we do about Congress? Why are things so bad? And what we always tell them is, progress is coming one retirement at a time, one new election at a time. And I feel optimistic because I don't know that I've ever seen a Republican candidate who's under the age of 40 like yourself, who's bad on the issues. They might have they might be inexperienced, they might not be the perfect candidate, but they actually get it on issues. And even if they're a child of immigrants, even if they're from unconventional backgrounds, you guys just get it in a way all of our older generation of guys, the guys who were around before Donald Trump, they just don't get it. And so I'm just very grateful to have guys like you.
Well, thank you. And, I'm really glad you bring up the amnesty deal because this is a battle we see happening between the right. Are we going to give people this path to citizenship while they're here? What are we going to do? Well, I actually put myself through college debt-free by working construction. And I will never forget, I was the foreman of a crew. And the guys who were working underneath me brought home more money than I did because they were being paid under the table. I was paying taxes. We talk about a labor shortage. When kids go into a workforce like that, I can see why they're a little disillusioned.
That's a great point. It's such a great point. And by the way, it bears repeating that big business will never be satisfied with enough foreign labor. They'll always want more. They'll always say they need more. We've experienced this since the 1960s. When are we going to wake up and realize that they're addicted to cheap labor? This is the same argument that slave owners used in the South Okay, it's ridiculous. Now, you have a huge event coming up tonight with Riley Gaines. Throw up 166 if you can, guys. So this is happening tonight, 6 p.m., Riverbend at River's Edge in New Richmond, Wisconsin, with the great Riley Gaines. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so basically what happened in New Richmond, Wisconsin, which was a predominantly pro-Trump area, their school board got taken over and they didn't even realize it. So for about a year, there was a boy using the girls' bathroom. And the parents found out about this. They called an emergency school board meeting, and the board voted 6-1 to do nothing, not to protect the girls. So the President Trump, there's a lot of things that have happened, but President Trump is now investigating, probably going to sue the school district. And we're holding this rally to show that the people of Wisconsin, of New Richmond, are not going to stand for this. We're not going to allow women's spaces to be invaded by men. We're not going to believe this ridiculous notion of a woman. We believe in women as God created them. And I also want to shout out the young girl who really made this whole thing public. Her name's Ella Fry. She's a 16-year-old girl going to New Richmond High School. The amount of hate she's received for just saying, I don't want to share a bathroom with a boy, has been ridiculous. She's going to be there speaking tonight. And, you know, I hope that everyone who's 16 years old is amazing as Ella Fry. Our country will be good to go if it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing that you're highlighting her story. The fact that we're still dealing with this is obscene. We see all these stories out of the WNBA. Blake loves covering those stories. We do it at least weekly now. But I'm so glad that you got Riley Gaines up there, who's been loud and out front in this issue. She's fearless. She's courageous. And you're bringing that much needed attention. You have this weird little nook in the country, Alfonso, where you're northwest Wisconsin, you butt up against Minnesota, where so much of these crazy ideas are coming out of, which I find shocking, because Minnesota, most of the state feels very all-American, you know, but yet this Minneapolis, St. Paul area get the craziest ideas and they bleed into your area. Are you seeing that happen, or am I mistaken in some way?
It's just really a couple bad eggs. You know, most of the people from Minnesota who come to Wisconsin are coming here for a reason. They don't want that madness. And one of the big things Republicans across the western part of Wisconsin are campaigning on is, don't Minnesota my Wisconsin. You guys already messed that area up. Stay over there. But if you want to bring your pro-women votes over here, your pro-bringing back the American economy votes over to Wisconsin, we need them because we have a very serious race.
Yeah, I just think I'm almost shocked Wisconsin. It feels like it should be a redder state, because you do have Minnesota is kind of the top avatar of liberalism, certainly that really radical liberalism in the United States. And we've seen that where the results are, that they positively wrecked Minneapolis. They let the city get torched. They let it get looted. They let murders roam free. And then, I mean, the insane Somali scams, all sorts of welfare fraud. You have Tim Walz going around doing his Tim Walz things and looking like a cartoon character. And now you have this Francesca Hong individual. She's running to become the governor of the state. Can you tell us a little bit, how is that affecting all the races across the state, that she's becoming essentially the statewide leader of the opposing party?
Yeah, you know, I like to say that the Democrats, traditional Democrats, have been so disappointing that even the Democrats are looking for something else. You know, I mean, Joe Biden left us with the worst inflation crisis we've had in 40 years. So, you know, now these leftists are saying, well, we need to push even further to the left. But when you look at Wisconsin, what you're talking about with saying, you know, these are great people. They're salt of the earth people. They're not going to vote for socialism. We have some of the most public universities in the entire country. We have UW-Madison, UW-Stevens Point, UW-Stout. The list goes on. And that's why it's so important to win young people. They're making a difference with their vote in the wrong way. And, you know, I have to bring this up because Charlie Kirk was actually a big reason why I decided to run for this seat. You know, I met him at the RNC. I actually produced his podcast in Milwaukee at the Rumble studio. And, you know, Charlie never gave up on my generation. I credit him with winning Trump the election in 2024 because young men actually swung for Trump. And if we don't start targeting the young people, we might win one election or two elections, but we will lose the country in 20 years. And as a new father, I really care about what happens to the country in 20, 40, 50 years.
Yeah. Michael, stay right there. I want to talk about Mom Donnie and grocery stores. We're talking about young people. I want to bring you in for that conversation when we hit it next. So stay right there. Really quick, I want to tell you about Hillsdale College. They are amazing. The beacon of the North. It's Michigan, so just a state over from Wisconsin. They've got a new course, the Iliad, and it is taught by Professor, let me see his name here, Professor Stephen Smith, and the course reveals why Homer's masterpiece remains one of the greatest works of Western literature ever. You can check that course out. Everybody's talking about the Odyssey. Check out the Iliad. And you can check out over 40 other courses there as well, too. Go to charlieforhillsdale.com, charlieforhillsdale.com. Learn something new today. You will be blessed. We'll be right back.
Since 1941, the USO has stood beside the men and women.
From packed crowds to unforgettable conversations, Eric Boland's Main Street America tour has been an incredible journey across the country.
Make sure you subscribe to Real America's Voice, pro-Trump, pro-conservative, patriotic network, more so than anyone I've ever worked at.
And now it's time for the next stop, Las Vegas. Join Eric Friday, August 7th as he broadcasts live from Joel's Chop House inside the Ahern Hotel, bringing you the stories, the voices, and the energy that have made this tour such a success. Tune in for this special live broadcast beginning at 1 p.m. local time, or join us in person. But tickets won't last long. Scan the QR code right now to secure your spot. Don't miss it. Friday, August 7th, only on Real America's Voice. A special thank you to our sponsor, Gunner Gear. Dominate every mission with full HD night vision binoculars featuring 1080p recording, 7 levels of infrared, and 10x digital zoom. See beyond the darkness. 8www.getnightvision.com.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
My name is Sandy Zeiss. Rav is the greatest for me because I live alone, and when I'm watching in the morning, have my coffee, I feel like I'm talking with family.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I am at the Y-Refi remote studios. Blake is at the actual Y-Refi studios in Phoenix, Arizona. I want to tell you about them because they're amazing. And then we'll get back to our conversation with Michael Alfonso, one of the rising stars on the right. Y-Refi is amazing. They help students and they help investors. So if you're an accredited investor, you can earn up to 10.25% on your investment, and that interest rate is fixed. You can invest from 1 to 5 years or spread your investment out over those terms to best suit your needs. When you invest in Y-Refi, your interest is calculated daily and it's paid out monthly, and you have the freedom to take your monthly interest as income, put it in your back pocket, or reinvest it, whatever you choose. They also offer a third option, and they automate it behind the scenes so you can set up a recurring payment with your interest to a local charity or your local church or Turning Point, whatever you want to do with it. These are great patriots, great values. They believe in the same things we do, and they love Sophie Cunningham. They work with her as well, so they have great taste. For more information, call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST, or visit them online at investyrefi.com. It's investyrefi.com. For complete details, make sure you review the private placement memorandum, and you scan that QR code right there on your screen to view the disclosures at your leisure. Y-Refi, investing in America's future. All right, so, Michael, we've got this Zohran Mamdani character in New York City. You might have heard of him. And one of his big deals was he's coming out with a grocery store in each of the 5 boroughs of New York City and he says that prices are going to be 30% cheaper, and that apparently you need an ID now to check out, to take advantage of these cheaper prices, which is hilarious because Democrats hate IDs. But it's a larger, I think, story that I want to talk to you about, because young people, I'll never forget when we were doing our CLS roundtable at the Chapter Leadership Summit in D.C. just a few weeks ago, one of the students said, hey, listen, for me, it's as simple as like, I shouldn't have to pay $20 for a burrito. And I said that on social media, and a bunch of people were like, I can get burritos for $15 with rice and beans. Well, okay, sure. But a lot of burritos cost $20. There is a felt need out there with young people that things just feel too expensive. What do you say to people when you meet them on the campaign trail and they're complaining about affordability? And what would you do about it?
Yeah, I tell them, don't listen to the lies of free stuff. The socialists have the easy pitch. They go to these kids who can't afford health care. They don't have a good job. They can't afford a home. And they say, how would you like a free home? How would you like free health care? Well, we know, you and I know that doesn't work. That makes everybody equitable in their levels of suffering. That's the only thing it does. Republicans actually have a plan. We're going to cut government spending. And I know every politician comes on and says, we're going to cut government spending. Well, all we have to do is get rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse. I mean, it took a 24-year-old named Nick Shirley with an iPhone camera to uncover $12 billion of fraud in Minneapolis alone. How much is happening in Chicago, which we know is way more corrupt than Minneapolis? It's very simple. We need to prioritize the next generation. $40 trillion in debt is not going to work. There's no wonder we have crazy inflation when we're spending hand over fist. Thanks, Joe Biden, for that one.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. There's three drivers, as I see it, to inflation. And Blake, I'll get your response after this. One, we print money like a bunch of drunk sailors. What does that do? You have more dollars in the system chasing fewer goods, and that is what drives inflation. Okay, we saw this in a huge way during COVID, where we saw the largest wealth transfer to the elites and the top earners because they own assets, they own equities, they own stocks that inflate in value when inflation happens. Guess who gets hurt? Working class, young people that are trying to enter the workforce. That's who it hurts the most. Number two is going to be mass immigration. It's a supply and demand issue. We're seeing this in places in Texas where the studies have come out where you don't have as many H-1Bs, you don't have as many immigrants, and guess what? Home prices are dropping. Rent prices are dropping. Supply and demand. Third, bad regulation, okay? Those are the three drivers of prices, okay? Now, what happened during the Biden years is that we had a lot of inflation, and that hangover is still felt, and people aren't getting the relief immediately, and I understand that that's painful, but Blake, and maybe this is your time to chime in here. The siren song of free stuff populism, of free stuff is going to fix everything. Why is that so disastrous in the long run?
Well, I'll just put it this way. I think we actually get distracted when we let them say the problem is $20 burritos or groceries are too expensive. The big drivers of why your life feels like you cannot afford it is how it's the stuff you're listening to. Housing is bad. Healthcare is bad. Education has gotten incredibly bad in terms of its price inflation over time. Childcare is really bad. And what sets all of those things apart is those are places where our glorious government has said, oh, these goods are expensive and important to people. Let's heavily regulate and shape these markets and make all of these guarantees. And all that they've done is lock in ever-increasing prices. It's like what we saw with student loans, where when the government said, we'll pay any amount for a student loan and just grant it, no questions asked. And so the schools, just like clockwork, were upping their tuition 5, 6, 7, 8% per year because they could get away with it. And as soon as the Trump administration came in and said, we're not going to up this mindlessly every year, you started seeing schools say, actually, this year we're going to experiment with a tuition freeze, or it's only going to go up 1%. Suddenly, different behaviors were coming out. And if we let them impose this on, for example, groceries, what you will find is you might get some immediate short-term relief. You know, it feels good to be given a free thing tomorrow, but the long run is you're going to have less of those goods available. The long-term increase in prices is going to be high. You're going to have fewer grocery stores around because Spoilers, that is what happened every time this is done. It's what happened in the Soviet Union. It's what happens in Latin America. It's what happens every time they try price controls. We have to not let this insidious ideology get in. It will impoverish us the way it's impoverished so many countries around the world.
Michael, final word to you, and please tell people where they can go to support you and what the action steps are to get involved in your campaign. And your primary comes up on Tuesday.
Yeah, so early voting is actually open right now. So you can vote pretty much all the way through up until August 11th. That's the final day. And, you can go to alfonsoforwisconsin.com to check out about the campaign, see the issues page, and volunteer, donate. Anything really helps. But, truly the most important thing is prayers, because we know how dangerous and frankly difficult the political world can be. So prayers mean the most.
Amen. And I just want to echo what Blake said earlier. We're so grateful for young voices like yourself that are proud conservatives, that are proudly American, that are willing to step into the breach and be a counterweight to the Hassan Pikers and the crazy murderers row of DSA that is rising all across the country. You are more important than you realize. And we hope that soon enough you will be joining the ranks of Anna Paulina Luna, Tim Burchett, and Brandon Gill in Congress, Herrera, these other young new voices that actually get it, that aren't speaking like a generation gone by, that understand the challenges of today and that understand what Gen Z is really up against. Michael Alfonso, we have your back 100%, and we're proud to stand with you, my friend. So Godspeed on Tuesday.
Thanks so much for having me.
Nick Freitas and Helen Andrews join us in hour 2. We'll be right back.
From packed crowds to unforgettable conversations, Eric Bolling's Main Street America tour has been an incredible journey across the country.
Make sure you subscribe to Real America's Voice, pro-Trump, pro-conservative, patriotic network, more so than anyone I've ever worked at.
And now it's time for the next stop, Las Vegas. Join Eric Friday, August 7th as he broadcasts live from Joel's Chop House inside the Ahern Hotel, bringing you the stories, the voices, and the energy that have made this tour such a success. Tune in for this special live broadcast beginning at 1 p.m. local time, or join us in person, but tickets won't last long. Scan the QR code right now to secure your spot. Don't miss it. Friday, August 7th, only on Real America's Voice. A special thank you to our sponsor, Gunner Gear. Dominate every mission with full HD night vision binoculars featuring 1080p recording, 7 levels of infrared, and 10x digital zoom. See beyond the darkness. 8www.getnightvision.com.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
My name is Sandy Zeiss. Rav is the greatest for me because I live alone, and when I'm watching in the morning, have my coffee, I feel like I'm talking with family.
The radical left wants to destroy America.
We're not going to let that happen.
The younger generation needs you to stand up and lead.
It's an inside-out strategy.
This is more than an organization. This is a movement.
We're here to save the country.
AMAC is a family, over 2 million patriots strong.
I am an AMAC member, by the way.
AMAC gives you the training, resources, and tools to be a citizen soldier.
Each one of us can make a difference, and that's what AMAC shows every day.
Plus, real benefits like travel discounts, insurance, and Medicare guidance. We are stronger together.
Our rights don't come from government. Our rights come from God.
Rav family, let's stand with AMAC.
To extinguish all the evil that we see around us.
Scan the QR code right now or go to amac.us/RAV and let's take our country back together.
back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. Taxes are probably the very last thing on your mind these days. However, some of you still owe the IRS, and some of you may be trying to avoid your tax problems. Hopefully neither applies to you, but either way, next year you will have to apply again, so why not start preparing now? Cameron Kinsey from Tax Network USA joins me with some things that you may want to keep in mind in order to keep peace of mind when you're dealing with the IRS. Cameron, good to see you.
It's good to see you too, Terrence. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So it's off season for the taxes, but the IRS is still hard at work. So what sorts of things should people be doing right now, particularly if they happen to owe?
Well, that's a great question. We get calls like this all the time, and the IRS is going to start sending notices out pretty soon for that October extension. So if you're on extension right now and you don't know what your options are, you don't even know where to start, take advantage of our free consultation with our professionals. We have a robust team of CPAs, licensed tax attorneys, and even former IRS agents who know the tactics of this agency and know the tax code inside and out in order to help you. Because I think a lot of people, Terrence, they go into this blind thinking that they can handle this on their own. And the truth is there are a ton of options available, but the IRS isn't going to do free advertisement for these options. It could look like installment agreements, offers in compromise, innocent spouse relief, all depending on the complexity of your case. But I'm here to just relay there are options available. You should just talk to a professional to see which option is the best for you.
The reality is there are people who are listening to this right now and have no idea where to start. A phone call to you guys is a free start.
Yes, absolutely. We're still upholding that free consultation where we basically dive into your financial picture a little bit more to see what you're going through. But the earlier you act, the more you protect yourself. It shows good faith on your part. Protecting yourself from those penalties and that interest are going to start compounding and snowballing. What that balance that may have felt manageable in April is going to look very different now. So it's just important to get ahead of it and see what your options are. Again, talking to our great professionals at Tax Network USA is probably the best start because the average person doesn't know the tax code inside and out. I know that I don't. So it's really good to just go over all those options and again, see what's best for you.
Mm-hmm. And we're typically talking here about individual tax filers, but you also serve business owners, specifically small business owners.
Yes, we do. We know that small business owners are the backbone of this country. And this is where things can spiral the fastest. And I'm glad that you brought this up because payroll taxes are not treated like normal tax debt in this situation. Because if those aren't paid, the IRS can hit business owners with what's called the trust fund recovery penalty, which is 100% of those unpaid payroll taxes. And what a lot of people don't understand is that it doesn't just stay with the business at that point. It then becomes personal. That means the IRS can go after your personal bank accounts, your assets, even your future income at that point. So it's not just a business issue anymore. It becomes a personal financial risk as well. So it's so important to get ahead of this, you guys, to protect yourself, your family, and your business. And just, again, see what these options are. There's so many options out there that's available, but the clock is ticking, unfortunately. Like I said, the IRS is going to start sending those notices out pretty soon for that October extension. So get ahead of it before it's too late.
If the IRS owes you, it's typically not a big deal. You know you're going to get your check. If you happen to owe the IRS, typically that amount isn't necessarily manageable, and so you want to take it in chunks. And there are payment plans that allow for that.
Yes, there's so many payment plans that are available. And this is where it's super important to have a professional put a strategy in place for you because none of these plans are automatic. It's based on your full financial picture and how your situation is presented to these agents. So it's so important to have a strategy in place from the start where you're dotting all your I's, you're crossing all your T's. It's just also more important to file no matter what. Even if you can't pay that full amount right out of pocket, like most people can't, you can still put a payment plan in place for that. It just shows good faith on your part, again, that you're doing your due diligence and at least trying in this situation.
Cameron Kinsey with Tax Network USA. Always good to see you, Cameron. And there at the bottom of your screen, folks, you see how you can contact Tax Network USA to at least get the ball rolling. Again, we appreciate you being here with us this afternoon. The information is there on your screen.
You know what nobody tells you about the assets in your IRA or 401k? For almost all Americans.
From packed crowds to unforgettable conversations, Eric Bolling's Main Street America tour has been an incredible journey across the country.
Make sure you subscribe to Real America's Voice, pro-Trump, pro-conservative, patriotic network, more so than anyone I've ever worked at.
And now it's time for the next stop, Las Vegas. Join Eric Friday, August 7th as he broadcasts live from Joel's Chop House inside the Ahern Hotel, bringing you the stories, the voices, and the energy that have made this tour such a success. Tune in for this special live broadcast beginning at 1 p.m. local time, or join us in person. But tickets won't last long. Scan the QR code right now to secure your spot. Don't miss it. Friday, August 7th, only on Real America's Voice. A special thank you to our sponsor, Gunner Gear. Dominate every mission with full HD night vision binoculars featuring 1080p recording, 7 levels of infrared, and 10x digital zoom. See beyond the darkness. 8www.getnightvision.com.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
You have the people that are saying, no, there is something to do about it. We're going to merge right-wing social policy with left-wing economic policy. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to be the ones that control the government. And we're going to use the government to make the economy work for our people. And anybody who disagrees with us, well, clearly they've been bought off by somebody, by the establishment, by Israel, whoever it is. They've been bought off. They can't be trusted. And so what am I watching? I'm watching the left engage in an action of identity politics, grievance politics, oppressor and oppressed dynamics. And now I'm watching a section of the right engage in the exact same thing. I understand the argument of saying, well, when you have legitimate power, you better use it to protect your institutions. I agree with that. Does that mean we give it up? We throw it out? Well, yeah, Nick, because look, it's not working right now. Does that mean it never worked?
All right, welcome back. Hour 2 is underway at the Charlie Kirk Show, and we have Nick Freitas, the star of that great clip, joining us now. He's a former Green Beret, and you can find him at X at Nick Freitas, and he's the author of a book that I just love the cover of, The Man Book. So throw that up. I know that was a few months ago, but it's worth throwing up again because he's a point-by-point guide to sucking it up and getting the job done. I just love that title. It tells you how to kick down doors and so many other cool things that guys need to know. Nick, welcome back to the show. It's great to see you, my friend. And I wish we were under better circumstances, but you are reacting in that clip to what we could only call a mass demoralization campaign that we're seeing play out in social media and podcasts from the right. So tell us what you're seeing and why you decided to make that clip and start speaking out.
Well, I think the thing that really frustrated me is this whole idea that all is lost, that our elections mean nothing because that they're all rigged, that nothing has happened. The Trump administration has done absolutely nothing. I hear this all the time from members of the right because they're frustrated that it hasn't done enough. And so when I'm seeing over and over again is this, again, I don't want to call it an attempt. I don't know if it's just they're genuinely demoralized or they're actively trying to demoralize people. But it's this idea that there's nothing we can do about our situation except, I guess, complain and like, follow, and subscribe the various influencers that are pushing this particular narrative. And there's a very, very big difference between someone that says, I am frustrated because I voted for one thing and I don't feel like I'm getting it. There's a very big difference between that versus somebody that says nothing has happened. There's no difference between the parties. It's all one big uniparty. And I'm looking at that like that is verifiable garbage. It's absolute nonsense. It is totally accurate to say, I don't think enough has been done. It is totally accurate to say that we have some people that claim to be Republicans and then govern very differently when we actually elect them. But to suggest that they're all the same, look, as someone that just had to leave Virginia, because I love Virginia, but as someone that had to leave it because it decided to lose its mind during the last election cycle. I can tell you right now, as frustrated as you might be with certain people on the right, and rightfully so, if you honestly believe that there's no difference, I encourage you to look at a state that was once governed by people that actually believed in things like individual liberty, private property rights, Second Amendment rights, pro-life, versus now when it's actually run by people that want abortion all the way up to the point of birth and want pornography within your public school library and believe that your guns should be confiscated from you or severely restricted, because there is a significant difference between living in one of those two places.
Blake?
Yeah, no, I love that. Just I get frustrated as well. There's so many cases where, and I often use the term I use for it is like emotional incontinence. I think what drives a lot of it is I've mentioned this. It's a little addictive to be really emotionally built up, really angry, really sad. That's why people like watching horror movies or really sad movies, because they get a rush out of those emotions. And I think we're seeing that play out on social media over and over again, that it's really satisfying to say they've completely ruined it. 2024 was for nothing. It's all a waste. And it's a lot more, when you have nuance, it's a lot less satisfying to come out and say, there's ways the administration has fallen short. There's other ways the administration is doing great. Here's what they can do to make things go better. Here's what they can do to turn the polls around. And we really have a moral responsibility, I think. Charlie was very aware of this. That's what was going on when he would say no blackpilling. It doesn't mean never complain, never criticize. It's that anytime you're complaining and criticizing, it needs to be aiming to help somebody, give them an action item, direct someone in the right direction. Here's how we fix it. Here's how lawmakers can fix it. And I think it's a discussion that needs to be had, because I think there's a lot of runaway dooming, a lot of runaway complaining on the right, and it could cause the left to take over the country again.
Yeah. Well, I think at this point,
I just want to say, too, that it's very difficult to build something. It's very difficult to build something. Very difficult to build the coalition that won in 2024. It is very easy to be a doomer. It's very easy to be a black pillar. It's very easy to tear down and destroy. And Nick, I heard you trying to chime in here, but I just want to say that it is so easy, and it's morally lazy, it's morally repugnant, actually, to be a doomer. Go ahead, Nick.
Well, no, I was basically going to say something very similar. I remember watching people when I was in the legislature in Virginia, and I was one vote out of 100 in the Virginia General Assembly and one vote in the 100 of the Virginia House of Delegates. And I would carry a bill, and I would lobby for the bill, and I would argue for the bill in subcommittee, and I would go out on social media and tell everyone what exactly was happening with the bill. And then the bill, when it passed, and I'd be told, I'm sick of excuses, Nick. I'm like, dude, I'm one vote out of 100 in the Virginia House of Delegates, and the Democrats control the building right now. What more would you like me to do? And it was amazing, because a lot of the times those criticisms would come from one of two people. It was either people that were just fed up, but then once you explained what you were doing, why you were trying to do it, and how they could help, they got to work. I love those people. I love those people because they're not obsessed with politics, but they expect something substantive to get done. And if you can actually direct them on how they can help in a practical and meaningful way, they do it. They do it. Then there's another group. And this is the group that gets this intense moral satisfaction out of risking nothing, putting in zero work other than complaining about everybody else. And the moment they never want to run for office themselves, they never want to put in any actual work because who cares? And well, they would never get elected because they're too honest. I look at those people, I say, gosh, I sure wish you were in charge. You apparently have all of the answers. And if only we could get you into a position of real authority, you'd achieve everything. But they don't want that position because deep down they know they wouldn't be able to accomplish anything. And they don't want to be held accountable. This is Teddy Roosevelt's The Critic versus the Man in the Arena. And so I've always been very big. It's one of the things, again, I've always appreciated about Charlie. It was like, if you're upset about something, I have a way that you can actually be more effective. And the people that actually take up that call and do it, those are the ones that I respect. Those are the ones whose critiques, whose arguments, whose frustrations I have no problem listening to, because I know they're going to put in the work to actually do something about it. But then you've got this whole other group where they honestly believe that, well, I showed up and voted. Oh, well, I guess that's the totality of your civic duty. I guess nothing else is required to protect our civilization, our way of life, our system, except for you to show up and vote, right? That's it. The people that voted to separate from England in the first place, that was all they should have had to do, right? Like, hey, King George, we're out, and no other requirements, right? No other duties or obligations on your point. On your part, you're just there for moral support. I'm sorry, I got nothing for that. And the more they talk and the more they gather influence online, the conclusion I come to is this serves no one except the left. Because the Mamdani wing of the Democratic Party that is taking over right now, if they can't get your vote, they will settle for your apathy all the way up until the point where they have enough power, and then it doesn't matter anymore. So again, I will listen to critiques from anybody in the trenches.
Yeah, if they can't get your vote, they will settle for your apathy. Man, that is so good. Nick, stay right there. Got another segment with you. I want to tell you about Blackout Coffee. If you are still paying too much for coffee, you need to stop. You need to sign up for their Coffee Club reward, okay? If you do it, you get 20% off your subscription for as long as you keep it. That's not a gimmick. I'm not messing with you. It's not a one-time discount. You say subscribe, you get 20% off your coffee, and you keep saving. Plus, you get free shippings, reward on every order, and then they even hook you up with a bonus after your third delivery. So go to blackoutcoffee.com/Charlie. That's blackoutcoffee.com/Charlie, and lock in that 20% off for life. We'll be right back with Nick Freitas.
Let me show you how to take your outdated, unsafe bathroom from this to this in a
From packed crowds to unforgettable conversations, Eric Bolling's Main Street America tour has been an incredible journey across the country.
Make sure you subscribe to Real America's Voice, pro-Trump, pro-conservative, patriotic network, more so than anyone I've ever worked at.
And now it's time for the next stop, Las Vegas. Join Eric Friday, August 7th as he broadcasts live from Joel's Chop House inside the Ahern Hotel, bringing you the stories, the voices, and the energy that have made this tour such a success. Tune in for this special live broadcast beginning at 1 p.m. local time, or join us in person. But tickets won't last long. Scan the QR code right now to secure your spot. Don't miss it. Friday, August 7th, only on Real America's Voice. A special thank you to our sponsor, Gunner Gear. Dominate every mission with full HD night vision binoculars featuring 1080p recording, 7 levels of infrared, and 10x digital zoom. See beyond the darkness. www.getnightvision.com.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
My name is Sandy Zeiss. Rav is the greatest for me because I live alone, and when I'm watching in the morning, have my coffee, I feel like I'm talking with family.
My name is TJ Ash from Carbonville, Utah. Real America's Voice lets me express my conservative views without censorship or edit.
right, welcome back, everybody. We are here at the Y Refi Studios, both remote and in Phoenix, Arizona. Blake's got my mic flagged, but I'm taking it back tomorrow. I will be back in studio. I want to tell you about Y Refi. If you are an accredited investor, you can earn up to 10.25% on your investment, and that interest rate is fixed. If you don't know if you're an accredited investor, they can help you figure that out as well. You can invest from 1 to 5 years or spread your investment over those terms to best suit your needs, whatever works for you. When you invest in Y Refi, your interest is calculated daily and paid out monthly, maximum transparency. You have the freedom to take your monthly interest as income, put it in your back pocket, walk away, or reinvest it, whatever you choose. And they give a third option where you can make it easy to donate to a local charity, that monthly interest, your local church, whatever you want. And just a word about Y Refi. These are great people with great values. We support them. They support us. And they're great patriots that love this country. For more information, call 877-80-INVEST, 877-80-INVEST, or visit them online at investYrefi.com. For complete details, make sure to review the private placement memorandum. Scan that QR code to view the disclosures at your leisure. Y Refi, investing in America's future. Please do check those guys out. All right, so this whole thing, Nick, made me remember Yuri Bezmenov, who was a KGB defector from the Soviet Union, and he warned against these demoralization campaigns. And it feels like we're living through this mass psychosis where everybody's just like dooming, and that gets the clicks. And if you're not super cynical, nobody believes you because you got to be a paid op or a shill or something like that. Nobody ever seems to give any credence to the idea that we just love our country. And I have kids and you have kids and Blake's going to have a lot of kids. And we just want a country to pass down to the next generation that looks better than the one we got, okay? Nobody thinks about that, okay? But let's hear him in his own words, and I'll have you react on the other side. SOT 24.
They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black. You still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible. To get rid of society of these people, you need another 20 or 15 years to educate a new generation of patriotically minded and common sense people who would be acting in favor and in the interests of the United States society.
There's so much in that clip, Nick, because I think about the work Charlie was doing, raising up that generation of patriotic Americans and how much work was done in that direction. And it feels like we've taken a couple steps back. But what he says about the fact that you could tell them black is black and white is white, they still won't acknowledge the truth. So when we talk about, hey, we've gotten rid of 1.4 million people, illegals out of this country, which is a fact that I tweeted about over the weekend. A lot of people came in the comments and said, so what, that's nothing. Well, guess what? The alternative is 3 to 5 million illegals every year under the Democrats. So don't tell me it's nothing. But the floor is yours, Nick, your reaction to this demoralization campaign.
Well, Yuri Bezmenov was talking about something called active measures that was put out by the Soviet Union. It was again, a very active, well-funded attempt in order to influence through our university system, through our culturally shaping institutions. And one of the things they talked about was the ability of these things to basically outlive themselves. So essentially, the Soviet Union is no more. Does that mean that the programs that they implemented are no longer successful? No, I would argue that they've been wildly successful with a number of generations of Americans that have been taught to believe that, the United States or the West in general is evil, it's bad, it's fundamentally flawed, and it has to be overthrown. And that's where you get everything from wokeism to third worldism to decolonization to all the little hot words that are used by people that all have essentially the same moral and philosophical foundation. But what you see going on the right is different right now. The right is looking at this. I was actually speaking at the ARC conference in London. And I said, one of the things that we have to do on the right is be careful about something. And that is if all we're telling young men is you have to fight hard to protect Western civilization so GDP numbers go up, that's not sufficient. right? It's right now you are looking at young men in the West who have been told repeatedly for the last 2 to 3 decades that they're the source of all the world's ills, that they're the problem, that they're evil, they're fascist, they're racist, they're sexist, they're bigoted, whatever. And they're looking at their own conduct and saying, I don't buy this. I wasn't these things, but you're telling me to defend Western civilization. What do you mean by that? Should I defend the thing that has been doing this to me for the past 3 decades, or should I defend the thing that was powerless to stop it? And that's a good point. But if you end the conversation there, then all you're going to get is demoralization. And there's some people that have built a huge audience by telling young men especially, it's not worth it. It all sucks. It all needs to be burned down. And you have to ask the question, what are they after? How do they possibly believe that this is going to yield better results further along down the line? And what I want to do is I want to remind young men that no, the thing that we're asking them to defend is not just Western civilization. I'm asking people to defend Christendom. And that's not because Christendom has always had the best fighters. It's not because our way of life in the United States has always been represented by the best people. That's never the case. That is the nature, that is human nature. The real question they have to ask yourself is what you believe true? And I believe that Christianity is true. I believe that this country, that our way of life was fundamentally built upon Christian ethics and theology. I believe that we then used centuries of wisdom with respect to trying to avoid the concentration of power in the hands of a few. And that our founders set up an incredible system of government that has, in many respects, stood the test of time beautifully. And I am not about to look at our system. I'm not about to look at our faith. I'm not about to look at the incredible history that the United States has and throw it all out because currently it has some really bad stewards, or that it has had some really bad stewards in the immediate past. I want to find the people that want to once again reference not just the Constitution, but the ideas that informed it, and said, I'm willing to fight for those. I'm willing to fight for those. I'm willing to give up everything for those, just like the people that went before me. And that's what I want young men, that's what I want young people in the United States to understand, is that nothing is easier than to throw in the towel and say it all sucks. But unless you're really willing to accept that we're in the worst and most direst period of all of American history, and so therefore your effort is no longer necessary or warranted, if you're really willing to say that, well then what do you say? What do you say to the people that actually went across the Delaware with George Washington on the verge of the Continental Army collapsing? What do you say to the 19-year-olds that stormed beaches at Normandy? What do you say to every other American that had to face incredible to existential crises within American history and rose up and conquered it and created something better? You're just not worthy of that legacy? I don't believe that's true. But I also believe that one of the keys here is that, and this is something that this is the reason why Charlie's legacy endures, because there's been a lot of people that were able to talk about politics effectively. The reason why Charlie's legacy endures.
We've all had pillow talk, but what if pillows talked? Tonight, we peek.
From packed crowds to unforgettable conversations, Eric Bolling's Main Street America tour has been an incredible journey across the country.
Make sure you subscribe to Real America's Voice, pro-Trump, pro-conservative, patriotic network, more so than anyone I've ever worked at.
And now it's time for the next stop, Las Vegas. Join Eric Friday, August 7th as he broadcasts live from Joel's Chop House inside the Ahern Hotel, bringing you the stories, the voices, and the energy that have made this tour such a success. Tune in for this special live broadcast beginning at 1 p.m. local time, or join us in person. The tickets won't last long. Scan the QR code right now to secure your spot. Don't miss it. Friday, August 7th, only on Real America's Voice. A special thank you to our sponsor, Gunner Gear. Dominate every mission with full HD night vision binoculars featuring 1080p recording, 7 levels of infrared, and 10x digital zoom. See beyond the darkness. 8www.getnightvision.com.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink. around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
My name is Sandy Zeiss. Rav is the greatest for me because I live alone, and when I'm watching in the morning, have my coffee, I feel like I'm talking with family.
My name is TJ Ash from Carbonville, Utah. Real America's Voice lets me express my conservative views without censorship or edit.
Blanche is a major step closer to becoming the country's next attorney general. Hi, everyone. I'm Terrence Bates. We appreciate you being here with us. After clearing the Senate Judiciary Committee with a 12-10 vote earlier today, Todd Blanche is moving forward. Until Monday, Blanche's confirmation was uncertain as Republican Senators Tom Tillis and John Cornyn both wanted assurances about President Trump's $1.8 billion weaponization fund. Blanche agreed to do away with that fund, which would have provided funding to Trump allies who have been targeted by government prosecution.
My vote to advance Mr. Blanche's nomination goes beyond this document. We need a stabilizing force at the Department of Justice, and Mr. Blanche deserves the opportunity to provide that as opposed to continuing to serve in an acting capacity and as the Deputy Attorney General. The Department of Justice does not need a temporary, unconfirmed nominee as our nation's top law enforcement officer. President Trump needs someone in this role as well with a strong legal mind, but who also is close enough to him to give him confidential legal advice to tell him hard truths.
Blanche's nomination now heads to the full Senate, where a confirmation vote is expected in the coming days. And in other headlines, President Trump will leave the Washington drama behind as he heads to the West Coast today for a two-day trip with stops in Los Angeles and Las Vegas. He'll attend a Republican National Committee roundtable and fundraiser in L.A. tonight. Then tomorrow, 47 will speak at the Red Rock Casino Resort and Spa in Las Vegas. He'll reportedly promote his working family's tax cut, specifically the no tax on tips provision. The West Coast swing is to get momentum leading into the November midterm elections. However, before leaving the White House today, the commander-in-chief scheduled to welcome the Penn State University NCAA National Championship wrestling team to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. He'll also participate in a swearing-in ceremony for the new director of national intelligence, Jay Clayton. That's a quick check of your headlines.
Letting everyone know socialism sucks. The Charlie Kirk Show.
Socialism still sucks. Man, Charlie was really early on that one, and he's so right. Socialism sucks. I want to tell you guys about Noble Gold Investments. We had Colin Plume on the show a couple days ago, and it was amazing. We're still getting emails about it. People are finding out that gold companies just went under, like big ones that you saw advertised on certain networks. I mean, it's just wild. There's a lot of shysters out there, but it's still really important to invest in precious metals as a hedge against inflation, to protect your wealth with something you can hold and touch and, feel. It's really, really critically important that you at least think about it. The folks over at Noble Gold can help you think about it. They have all the tools necessary. You can start a 401k, an IRA rollovers. So check them out, noblegoldinvestments.com/Kirk. Tell them that we sent you. And again, Colin and the team are great people. They do things the right way. They have a ton of integrity, and we share their values, and they share ours. And they've been with us since the beginning, by the way. This is the problem with most gold companies. They come and they go and all this stuff. Not Colin Plume, Noble Gold. They're doing things the right way, and you can trust them. noblegoldinvestments.com/Kirk. They're also experts on silver, which is, a lot of people don't think about silver, but it's a great thing to look into. noblegoldinvestments.com/Kirk. All right, without further ado, we have the great Helen Andrews, who's the author of Boomers, The Men and Women Who Promised Freedom and Delivered Disaster. We had her on for one of my favorite articles of all time about the wokeism is just feminism that is institutionalized with our businesses. Great conversation. And now she's got a new one from Compact Magazine, The Racial Crossroads. Helen Andrews, Blake was the one who showed me this article. Helen, it is amazing and it's so important. So welcome back to the show. I can't wait to have this discussion with you. Blake, do you want to take it away?
Let's just dive right into it. You describe America, as the title says, we're at a racial crossroads. A great decision has to be made. Helen, why don't you just tell our listeners, what is the decision America has to make in your view?
A lot of people are walking around feeling like the insanity we all lived through in 2020 is thankfully behind us, and we don't have to worry about wokeness anymore. I am here to tell you, unfortunately, that that's not true, because the factors that led to the episode of racial hysteria that we lived through in 2020 it wasn't just a random episode that was caused by George Floyd. These are deep problems related to decades-long demographic trends. To put it in a single sentence, the racial regime that we crafted in the 1960s for an America that was 90% white and 10% black, roughly, is no longer going to function effectively in the America that's coming down the pike and that Generation Z is already living in, when it's less than 50% white and the people who are able to claim special treatment under our system of racial laws are actually a demographic majority. That is just a recipe for race intruding into every interaction, every institution, every political issue. And that's an extremely toxic outcome that we are now at a decision point when we're kind of almost at the last moment when we can avert that bad outcome.
I think this is what's so important about it. You describe how, first of all, you say the Trump administration's done good stuff. They've actually been trying to apply civil rights laws fairly and say, it says you can't discriminate based on race. You guys have been discriminating against white people. That's not allowed. But you make the case that this is inherently doomed as long as we're locked in seeing race with every single thing that we do. And I love the idiom you use to describe this. You describe what it was like living in Soviet Russia and what it meant to live in a Marxist system. Can you build out that comparison, the Marxist system that the Soviet Union had versus our race system that we live under?
If you've been on the internet, you may have seen people refer to the modern left's ideology as race communism. I liked that phrase when I first came across it because I thought it was funny. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it's not actually a joke. In the Soviet Union of the 60s and 70s, it wasn't the Stalinist era anymore. No one was getting thrown into gulags. But it was still an oppressive place to live because the government had a clear, specific ideology, and it put that ideology into everything. Every institution had a commissar whose whole job it was to enforce the party line on his workplace, his factory, his academic institute, there was somebody whose job that was. And I thought, well, we have that today. That's just the HR person. The HR person enforces our particular rules of political correctness. Any place you work, if you work at an institution that employs more than 10 people, you've probably got an ideological enforcer on your staff. So this idea that our government has an ideology and it's not enough for people to sort of accept the government that they live under as legitimate. They have to accept the ideology. The government is sort of evangelical about its ideological line. That's a recipe for, it's going to feel oppressive. It is contrary to the basic principles that America used to be founded on, which is freedom of thought and freedom of philosophy. It's not a recipe for solid, independent Republican citizenship if your government has an ideology that it feels it necessary to enforce on you.
I think that's a really good point. Charlie would call the HR departments and the DEI directors the commissars of wokeness, enforcing the party line. And we have made progress. We've been pushing back, but as we always say, woke is not dead. I know that woke was one of the terms that you bandied about in this piece, kind of wondering, should that be the word or the phrase that we use to describe this turning point that we're at? But you say this is one of the last points that we have to fix this problem. What do you mean by that, and what would the solutions be?
I love the work that the Trump administration is doing on this front right now. They are stacking up new wins every day on stuff like this. Harmeet Dillon at the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice suing these schools that have been discriminating against white and Asian college applicants, med school applicants. I think that's really great. I love that they're suing businesses for their anti-white DEI programs, telling them you can't racially humiliate your employees as part of, a workplace seminar. That's against the law. I love what they're doing. But I don't think it's a sustainable long-term solution, because if we get into a situation where we conduct all of our politics by race-based lawsuits, then the party of race, which is the Democrats, is better than us at that. The law is tilted in their favor. I think that's a battle we're going to lose. So I think when we stack up these wins like the Trump administration is doing, we need to think about what's our long-term strategy. What's the end goal we really want to arrive at? And my 2 cents is that the only solution to this toxic cycle of race-based conflict that we're kind of just seeing the start of in America, the only way to avert that is to go back to freedom of association and just enough with the race-based lawsuits, period. That's just not the way we should conduct our politics. But right now, returning to freedom of association is kind of a political non-starter. So the only way to get liberal institutions to sort of entertain even that possibility would be to inflict enough pain on them now through the kinds of lawsuits that the Trump administration is targeting at places like Harvard. If Harvard feels like it's inundated with lawsuits, and the only way to stop it is to go back to freedom of association and just take race-based lawsuits off the table completely, I want to get Harvard to a point where Harvard would agree to that. And I think the way to get Harvard to that point is to use these lawsuits based on equality under the law to inflict enough pain on them now.
I think that's so well said. I want to explore another part where you lay out why this is so important, and you talk about the accelerating decay. And we saw this in the Soviet Union as well, that it was a country that could fight and win World War II in the 40s. It put the first man in space in the 50s, but by the 80s, it can't do anything and it entirely falls apart. And I love how you highlight actually the Kamala Harris campaign in 2024 as this excellent example of where we're going, that when we started with DEI and affirmative action, as you said, 90% white country, we have a 10% black underclass that hasn't done as well. Let's give them a bit of a leg up. But when half the population or more is eligible for this, higher and higher rungs of society are subject to this. And so the Democrats run a unqualified DEI presidential candidate, not just someone who's checking boxes, but someone who's not capable of fulfilling this job. And you mentioned Harvard as well. Harvard had a DEI president. They should have the smartest, best college president in the world, and instead they had this plagiarist charlatan. Talk about other sources of collapse we're going to see in our society if we don't get this race obsession out of our politics. What else is going to break? What's going to fall apart?
Well, the reason why the Kamala Harris incident was so striking for so many people is that the fundamental promise of the affirmative action regime is that it might sometimes be unfair. You might sometimes give a job to somebody who wasn't quite as qualified as the most qualified white candidate, but that's okay in the interests of justice. And at the end of the day, if it's something really important, you'll end up with somebody who meets minimal qualifications. We're not going to elevate somebody who's unqualified. Well, Kamala Harris kind of disproved that. But it's exactly as you say, Blake. The trouble with these forces of decay is that it's really hard to notice how much of your house the termites have eaten before it just falls down completely. These incremental forces of decay can really go invisible for a really long time. The air traffic controllers was a story that got a lot of coverage in 2023. There were a lot of close calls at airports, planes almost hitting each other, and a lot of them were due to air traffic controller error. And President Trump raised the possibility in a press conference that maybe this was the result of some really aggressive DEI measures that the Obama administration implemented through its FAA in the selection of air traffic controllers. They basically threw out the standardized test completely and started picking air traffic controllers purely based on the color of their skin and diversity mandates. Donald Trump speculated that had led to a situation where they were less qualified. And that's the thing. It's hard to notice until you get to the crisis point.
We love talking about pilots and air traffic controllers around here, Helen, so that'll be a good jumping off point for the next segment. Stay right there. I want to tell you guys about Strong Cell. StrongCell.com is amazing. Blake's raiding my stash as we speak. Strong Cell is a nutritional supplement that leverages a remarkable enzyme called NADH. There he is, rubbing it in. Think of it as the power source for every living cell in your body. And you have over 30 trillion cells working for you. Imagine how great you could feel if they were all functioning at their best. And by the way, as you get older, you lose NADH in your system. So you need to supplement it. And whether you have brain fog, chronic fatigue, any of those things where you're just feeling a little bit low energy, this is a great source of energy, and it ramps up over time. Give it 6 to 8 weeks to work, and you will notice a massive difference. Go to StrongCell.com, use promo code Charlie for 20% off, and a 90-day risk-free money-back guarantee. StrongCell.com, promo code Charlie. We'll be right back.
Running on empty, brain fog, can't focus, and those sugar-loaded energy drinks? Sure, they spike you fast, then crash you hard. Fix it with Soldier Fuel, the official energy drink of Real America's Voice. Soldier Fuel was born in the military to solve a real problem. Troops were relying on sugary drinks that wreck performance, so they built a better option. Zero sugar and steady energy, powered by caffeine, taurine, and inositol, and extra B vitamins for clean energy and focus. No roller coaster crash. This isn't gas station hype. Soldier Fuel was built alongside the U.S. military and proven where it counts. Used by American soldiers and elite special operations.
This is really good.
And when you fuel up, you give back. 15% of profits go to pro-military charities. Scan the QR code, search for Soldier Fuel on Amazon, or go to buysoldierfuel.com and get an automatic 15% off your entire order. Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We have the great Helen Andrews, one of the must-follows on X, and you should read all of her new articles when they come out. She's a great thinker. She's a deep thinker, and she is a based female, which we have far too few of, Helen, by the way. So follow her. She's at Her Andrews on X, and there's a lot of slop out there. This is actually good stuff. Follow her on X. Please give her a follow, Her Andrews. And, of course, her book, Boomers, The Men and Women Who Promised Freedom and Delivered Disaster, which our audience is always very excited about, Helen. We make lots of friends when we talk about that topic. But it's okay. We love our boomers that are listening in the audience. You are the good boomers, trust me. All right, so I have one question. So whites, as a share of the global population, Helen, only make up about 10% of the world's population right now. About 850 million whites, maybe a billion, depending on how you count it, out of 8.1 billion people on planet Earth. So how come everybody is so intense, it feels like, especially DSA candidates, the Democrats, but across the world, about demonizing white people, when some of the most successful societies are white societies? And it seems like everybody wants to move to societies that have been built by Europeans and their descendants. Explain this dynamic. Is it all just grievance-based?
It is. The thing that disturbed me most about the racial hysteria of 2020 was not its intensity. It was the facility with the language of white supremacy that I saw among immigrants and children of immigrants. One of the things that I mentioned in the piece is that it's striking how many members of the new DSA left, the sort of Mamdani left, are themselves immigrants or the children of immigrants. These are people who were born in Africa or India, or Francesca Hong, whose parents were from Korea. These people have no personal connection to the episodes of American history that gave us our current racial bargain. These are not people whose parents were around during the civil rights movement or whose ancestors were affected by American slavery. These are people who got here the historical equivalent of the day before yesterday, and yet they are trading on hostility to me and my ancestors and my children in order to gain political power. So I really, really am deeply worried about the left buying into a simplistic moral narrative of politics and American history that boils down to essentially white people bad, non-white people good, that can be assimilated into by any person who's not white from anywhere else on the planet. Anybody else can just come here and join that anti-white movement. That's a recipe for disaster and expropriation and all kinds of horrible outcomes that we're even starting to see right now.
I feel a lot of dread.
Exactly.
I feel a lot of dread. Actually, I want to emphasize the point. Everyone, go follow her X account. I actually have a list on X that I use. That is my check daily list. There are only, I think, 5 or 6 accounts on it, and Helen's is one of them. So she is a highly worthy individual. But I want to tie this back to your thesis last winter that we really liked about the great feminization, that as our professional fields, law, politics, everything else, have had more women enter them, they've taken on more feminine modes. And it feels like this is very similar, that as we've become a more multiracial country, American politics and law and society has increasingly taken on this aspect of racial ethnic conflict as a core thing in everything that's going on. And I guess what I worry about is, you say in your own piece, we're approaching our last chance to diverge from this, but you also admit Democrats, the left, they're able to offer people a ton of things. They're able to say, here's your villain, we're going to take their stuff and give it to you. And the right, we can't compete with that if we're just rejecting racial politics. So I know you're a writer, not a senator, not the president, but do you see a strategy that you think is viable for getting us on the superior path when we have that asymmetry in politics right now?
Step one just has to be to accept the truth and confront the truth. Right now, I still see a lot of people on the right saying, gosh, it's really frustrating. Isn't it crazy that no Republican presidential candidate has won the vote of any racial or ethnic minority in any presidential election since Herbert Hoover? We've never won the black or Hispanic or Asian vote. It's crazy. We need to do better. We need to do more outreach. And I fully agree that outreach to those demographics is excellent. I think everybody should be a conservative, everybody should be a Republican, and those people included. But the bottom line is you can't beat something with nothing. And if the Democrats are saying we're going to give you lots of privileges simply on the basis of your race, and people turn to the Republicans and say, okay, what's your counteroffer? And we say our counteroffer is nothing, then that's not an effective negotiation. So the only way to stop that toxic cycle is to do something decisive to take race-based redistribution off the table entirely. And I agree that we're not there right now in terms of being able to pull political levers to make that happen. But that has to be the long-term goal that we're working towards, because anything else, these long-term demographic trends are just going to pull us back towards the toxic cycle once again.
Yeah, and, I want to go back to your earlier point where you're talking about these DSA candidates. Obviously, in Michigan, we've got Abdul El Sayed, who's running in his primary. He's probably going to win. And we played this clip earlier, but it bears repeating. Play clip 2.
On the removal of the whole people. Founded on the idea that we could compromise on whether or not people, as a function of the color of their skin, could be enslaved by other people. Founded under the idea that all people are created equal, all men, but that only meant certain men, and not women.
So this is happening tonight. This is an Egyptian descent individual who is lecturing us about these moral failures of slavery that he has no connection to, Helen. And that's a perfect embodiment of one of the key points I think you made in this interview. The floor is yours. Final minute.
And of course, it's affronting to hear somebody like Abdul Sayed talk like that. But my concern isn't even with the effrontery he shows in talking like that. My concern is that he enjoys favors under the law. He is advantaged through various legal programs over white Americans whose families have been in this country for generations, simply by virtue of being a non-white person. This legal dividing of America into non-white and white, and apportioning privileges to the former and disadvantages to the latter. That's a system that worked okay in the America of 1965, but our demographics have changed a lot since then, and it's simply not going to be supportable as we proceed into a future of a majority-minority America.
Helen Andrews, The Racial Crossroads at compactmag.com. Please check it out. She is wonderful. Helen, can we just put you in a lab and multiply you by, a couple million? That would be great. You are fantastic.
I have 3 kids. I'm doing my
Blake's
best.
Always very good. We got to get above replacement levels here. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then.
So my friends have all switched to Pure Talk because I told them they could save a bunch of money on a super.
Running on empty, brain fog, can't focus, and those sugar-loaded energy drinks? Sure, they spike you fast, then crash you hard. Fix it with Soldier Fuel, the official energy drink of real America's voice. Soldier Fuel was born in the military to solve a real problem. Troops were relying on sugary drinks that wreck performance, so they built a better option. Zero sugar and steady energy, powered by caffeine, taurine, inositol, and extra B vitamins for clean energy and focus. No roller coaster crash. This isn't gas station hype. Soldier Fuel was built alongside the U.S. military and proven where it counts. Used by American soldiers and elite special operations.
This is really good.
And when you fuel up, you give back. 15% of profits go to pro-military charities. Scan the QR code, search for Soldier Fuel on Amazon, or go to buysoldierfuel.com and get an automatic 15% off your entire order. Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a real voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
Gunner Gear's night vision binoculars. Whether you're protecting your home by spotting intruders before they ever see you, assisting in search and rescue, carrying out tactical missions, tracking game on a night hunt, or quietly observing wildlife after dark, these powerful binoculars give you the advantage when visibility matters most. Enjoy a crystal clear day or night, full HD picture, powerful 10x digital zoom to bring distant subjects up close, and 7 levels of infrared illumination that help you see in complete darkness. Get your pair of night vision binoculars for as low as $99 each. Scan the QR code now to save 50% and get free shipping. See what others can't in the dark. Visit getnightvision.com today.